enjoyment. But when you're in front of a live audience, there's something to feed off of. There's a live energy that you can't replace it. Because people are sharing the love, they're sharing the things that you can see the responses like body language. Almost like a nonverbal communication, but there's music going on. You know what I mean? So
Right.
yeah.
It's what has it been like for you since this pandemic? Because I know a lot of artists have had to do virtual performances
Mhm.
due to that. Now being able to somewhat get back out there and reacquaint yourself with the
Yes.
listeners, man. What is that? What is that feeling, Ben?
Man, you know what? It makes you not take for granted what you have. I
Right.
mean, every day is a blessing to be above ground. And, as you know, during COVID, I mean, we lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so it was hard in that sense. But the other side of it was I got to be home, stay home a little bit. And that was good because I was going in closets looking around at stuff I had bought and never looked at. I was like, man, damn, I forgot I bought this stuff here. you know but nothing is like getting back on the road and being in front of people. I mean, you just really are grateful for that people actually want to buy tickets, get out and see what we do. It's really a blessing. So
Have you become comfortable with social media as far as it being more advantageous to promote your
yes.
product? I find that a lot of artists are still kind of apprehensive with going in that direction. But when I look at your social media and the amount of new lovers of your music have come,
Oh,
man, I
thank
mean,
you.
it's incredible. What does that mean now? It's like, hey, I've been doing this for a minute. Now I'm
All
having these
right.
new people coming in and say, hey, come on, the
Sure,
water's
sure.
fine now. What has that meant for you?
Well, for me, it's been being able to reach out and touch, so to speak. I do more personal things in terms of talking to people one on one. Back during COVID, we were doing things from my house where we would have people join us and we'd have conversations about different things in the industry, all that kind of stuff. So I think that they provided direct contact from artists to the people that support you, and they get to see that you're human. People have this image of who you are, and you're like, no, I shop at Walmart. I go one stop shopping, man. I go to Whole Foods. I
Oh
mean,
man, that human element. People
oh
see, hey,
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
I'm I'm not a robot. I actually, I do go shopping. I get food.
Right, exactly. I get food.
I have to
I got to
replenish
fill my
myself.
car up. I mean, I'm a normal guy, believe me. So
Hey, hey, stay young at heart, brother. That's all that
yes, sir.
matters. That's all that
Yes,
matters. And for those who are tuning in just a little bit late, shame on you. But the teddy bear does forgive you. We're being joined by Najee, of course, his fantastic new album, of course. Yes, Lord. Savoir Faire is
yes,
definitely
sir.
everywhere. Um, Man, it's so many things to get into. I wanted to touch upon as far as we talked about earlier about challenging
Mhm.
yourself. For
Yes.
you, do you already go into the studio with a concept as far as the kind of direction that you want to go as far as say, hey, look, you know what? This is going to be straight instrumental. Everything on the album is going to be instrumental. Or I say, you know what? I have a couple of tracks that I want to definitely get some vocals on. Have you already pinpointed and put that in your mind when you start working on the project?
No, actually, for me, it goes song by song.
Okay.
I very rarely have had a straight instrumental record. Trying to think if there's one that I can name, and I really can't. Other than when I'm with other artists like Billy Cobham or Stanley Clark or something. But honestly, I go song by song. What feels good. It starts out a certain way, but I don't go with a plan. Honestly, it depends on who I'm working with, what they bring, and if it feels good, and if I think the audience might appreciate it. And that's
Right.
really most important to me. Yeah.
One of the things I remember, you gave an interview, and going back a little bit. This was
Sure.
maybe I say about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And one of the things that really struck me was the emphasis on being disciplined,
Um.
continually, uh, as far as your skill set, as far as making sure that you continually hone your skill set.
Yes.
And you say a lot of, and because that one thing I love about you, you've always been brutally honest to a fault about certain artists being lazy, being lazy, and not sitting up and taking the necessary steps to perfect their
Mhm.
craft. And I
Yeah.
want at this stage of the game, you still push yourself. You're still driven. How do you say, what, this is what I need to do to perfect my craft even more?
Well, I'm sorry if I criticize anybody directly.
No.
Obviously, that was not the goal, but and honestly, we all have our moments where
Right.
we're take a chill,
Right.
minute. But I will say that I try to look up to things I want to accomplish. What I mean by that, to me, when I listen to John Coltrane, you know, I say to myself, on tenor saxophone, I haven't arrived. Or I listen to Hubert
Right.
Laws on flute, or even a James Galway classical player, classical genius on flute. When I listen to people like that, I'm like, okay, yeah, you're okay, you do okay, and you made a living on this thing, but that's where you want to go. You gotta, set a high, or even a Michael Brecker, great tenor saxophonist. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. I mean, when you listen to people like that, and you say, man, what I do is okay, but when you hear what they do and what they've done and what they've accomplished, you say, you know what, that motivates me to keep going. you,
Man. But
you
when
don't
you
get comfortable at one level. You may arrive at the top of one level, but you're certainly at the bottom of the next. So you just keep it going like that.
What is the fascination outside the United States with
Hmm.
jazz or contemporary jazz? It's like the love affair has
Hmm.
always been there. I mean, it has been, to me, and maybe it's just me, I think they have a greater respect
Yes.
for
Hmm.
jazz than they do out here. I'm not trying to throw negative
No.
vibes or energy here in the States, but I'm just calling it as I see it.
Sure.
Every great jazz artist that I've interviewed, along with yourself, they rave about the love, the
Hmm.
respect, and the admiration they get when they go outside, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in
Yeah.
Japan, Australia,
Hmm.
they love it. What is that feeling that because you've had an opportunity to travel
Yes, I have.
all over the world, what is the vibe that you get from that?
Well, you're right. It's a sense of appreciation, but I think it goes way back to the early part of last century when, particularly jazz musicians, African Americans specifically, and others, who would go to places like France, where they didn't deal with France or England and Europe and places like that, where the music was readily accepted. Um, and the explosion worldwide of jazz back in that period still carries us till this day. That there's an appreciation for American culture and what is organic, or what's the word I'll use? Yeah, organic, I guess. To our culture. Now the problem is I think when it comes to commerciality, when it comes to commerce, things change. The culture. Until this day, America is still the cultural engine, I think, for the rest of the world till this day. I mean, now a lot of you go to other countries and they have their own, you know, musical direction and path and way of marketing that. But, the fact that everybody knows who Usher is in Europe and they know who he is in Brazil and, or Beyonce, that says a lot, so,
Yeah, it really
you know.
does.
Hmm.
I never thought I would ever see the day where I seen all the major, as far as record stores, Sam
Hmm.
Goody, Warehouse
Yeah.
Records, Tower, Music Land, just disappear off the face
Yes.
of the earth. And then all of a sudden you go in Japan or Europe and they still have record stores where they have
Right.
vinyl. I'm like,
Yeah,
wait,
that's true. That's true.
wait a
Yeah.
minute, what's going on?
Yeah.
Um, what was your during that time when that started happening? What was going through your mind when you seen all the record stores just started leaving and everything
Well,
became just digital?
well, I was obviously very sad. There was a big chunk of commerce had ended for us,
Right.
but we have to say it went all the way back to Napster, when Napster
Yeah.
was starting, and digital technology, the birth of digital technology, and the ability to pirate music in its original form in a digital format because there's no quality lost in the digital world. So when Napster came along and started giving music away, we were definitely affected. And then along came iTunes and other formats that unfortunately killed the game. And the
Yeah.
record companies unfortunately did not catch the wave as it was in its prime. They caught on after they started to see retail dying, and which was a sad loss for a lot of us. So. we had to figure out how to navigate, around that. So,
Right. What gives you more gratification, being on a major record label or being an independent artist?
well, they both have their advantages and their setbacks. Being on a major label, you have labels are sometimes able to distribute in places you can't get to as an independent artist because they have relationships with distribution and like where you were mentioning in places like Japan and Europe, where they still might have record stores or distribution deals with major things. But being an independent artist, the beauty of that is all the money comes back home to you.
Yeah.
So, and so if you're playing the game right, and you're
Right.
distributing properly, it comes back home to you. Now, that's a conversation for me that started back when I was touring with Prince. One of the big things he had was during his time that I became what you may call an independent artist that does more licensing now. Even though I may go to a major label, it's a licensing deal where the rights are reverted back to me after a period of time.
Right.
So, but all of that, I have to say, I have to credit back to the conversations with Prince, when he would always stand up and fight and be a rebel against the label, saying the artist should have rights to own their own material. And he was absolutely right about
It
that.
is weird. It's something that I
Hmm.
create, but you have
Yes,
control over it. That's
exactly.
that's neat.
Yeah.
he,
Yes,
he
sir.
was he was definitely right. Definitely right. Wow. I go back to a time or an era of jazz where great jazz artists lived a very hard life. Very hard life.
They still do.
But during that time, were you talking about John Coltrane
Hmm.
or Charlie Parker, the type of
Yes,
hard life that they
yes, sir.
led?
Yes,
You playing all night and then doing other things that are not too advantageous health
right.
wise. And
Yes.
what I wanted to find out from you, how have you been able to maintain the stability and maintain a balance where you never allowed yourself to get caught up in that?
You know what? I went through a very brief period in my life as a teenager, from the age of
Mm.
16 to 19, where, as a young touring musician, my very first world tour was at the age of 18, playing with a group where we played all around the world for the USO. So
Okay.
we went to places like Europe, Spain, Central America, all over. Yeah, as far north in Europe as Greenland, Iceland, places like that. And it was during that period that I went through my little period of experimenting with. I never got into hard drugs, but I did my thing. I'll basically
Right.
say.
I understand.
But at the age of 19, I made a decision, that it wasn't for me. I had a
Yeah.
young baby at the time, and I started thinking about how I would like his life to turn out. And I made a decision. You know what? If I want to be in this game, I can't fall to the vices on that level. And since that time, that's what's preserved me. I don't have an appetite for doing those things now. You know what I mean? So, and I think if anything, it's kept me alive this long. So,
Well, it's
yeah,
definitely a beautiful
yes, sir.
thing. And speaking of a beautiful thing, again, family, make sure you get the new album, Savoir Faire, and make sure to
Yes,
get all the latest updates. Stop by Najee's official website. That's najeeofficial.com.
yes.
I was
Thank
looking
you.
at a movie a couple of days ago. I've actually seen it several times with Paul Newman
Okay.
and Sidney Poitier,
Hmm.
and it was a jazz movie, man. And it was located in France, and it was him. It was also Louis Armstrong,
Uh huh.
and yeah, and I just sit back, man. It's like jazz is just so. It's to me, it's like it's the Godfather of music, man.
Yeah.
It's like where everything started. For you, I've seen you perform live maybe 5 times.
Oh wow. Thank you.
Five?
Thank
Oh
you.
yeah, I've seen you perform 5 times.
Okay.
And for all the listeners out there and the viewers out there, what you see in front of you, Najee's like very low key, chill, laid back. When he's on stage, it's like he turns he metamorphoses into something else completely different. And I'm trying to understand and get a better understanding. How long does it take you to
Mhm.
come down from that kind of
Mm.
high after you leave the stage, that
Yes.
adrenaline rush when you get off?
Yes. Gosh, it takes me a little while to be honest with
Okay.
you. Because
Okay.
there's a lot that goes in terms of building up to that, and then when you're
Right.
there, but yeah, it takes a little while. When I come back to my hotel. it takes a while, you know. And as a matter of fact, when I come home, it takes me literally 3 days to get acclimated back to home. You know, so I'll be home for 3 days and then I'm gone again. You know, so
Wow.
but it usually takes me about 3 days to really find my center, if you will. You know,
Right.
so
It's I find it's refreshing because the artists that I've spoken with, they said there's no feeling that compares to that. When you're
yes,
performing live and that you get that kind of adrenaline rush, and then after the performance is over with, it's like you're trying to find time to center yourself
right,
because you still have all this energy and you trying to come down. It's like, hey, it's not like I can go outside. Hey, let me take out the trash or
right,
wash the dishes because there's nothing.
sure, sure,
Nothing replaces that.
yeah,
Speaking of nothing that can replace, you have been ranked one of the most incredible musicians of our
wow,
time. Oh yeah, absolutely,
okay,
man.
thank you.
Highly respected. How do you look at yourself when people start comparing you to great artists like, as you said, like John Coltrane?
Ooh,
Of course, my man, Mr. Magic. When people,
yeah,
because those
Grover, yeah.
names, yeah, when people can put you up and say, "Man, he's right there." How does that make you feel? Because you like one of the most laid back and most just super humble, man. But how does it make
Oh
you
man,
feel
well,
you being compared to those artists like that?
you know, man, I came from very, very humble beginnings. You know, I didn't come from royalty. I didn't come from, you know, I came from a working class family that was borderline on poverty as a kid. You know,
Right,
growing up in New York City, and it was a life of struggle. You know, it was not an easy life at all. My mother was a single mother raising her kids on her own, and I used to watch her go to a job. She'd take 2 hours to get to work, 2 hours to come home, and then deal with us. You know, and and she and, and I'm telling you, when I think back to those times, I really appreciate those humble beginnings. I mean, I grew up in New York City where, you know, life was not always secure. It was always a threat. You know, there was always
right,
something threatening you. You know, so and then you know, were periods of my life where I did, you know, I had to depart from music to do other things. You know, so I could identify with the guy who drives taxi, you know, or the guy who drove a truck to deliver furniture. I could identify with that, or a
right,
security guard, because when I was in college and had no money, you know, I had to go do what I had to do, you know, and
right,
so when I'm with people like that, I identify with that because that's where I come from. You know, I don't come from, you know, the kid that was given everything and, you know, the path was laid out for me. No, there's a huge story behind all that, you know. So
man.
yeah.
I'm,
So if I appreciate the comments on the humility, but honestly, that's, you know, I really am grateful every day to be doing what I do, and I thank God every day for having the life that I've had. So yeah.
if Najee of today can
Hmm.
go back and have a conversation when Najee was like, let's say 24 years old,
Okay. Hmm.
what would be some of the things that you would say him to possibly help him prepare for this journey?
Oh my God, that's a big one. I don't know. Let me see. You know, there's certain people I would have never gotten involved with. I'll start there, okay?
Okay. So,
And I'll leave it right there, okay? So,
oh my goodness.
yeah, yes,
And
sir.
man, hey, it
It was like
happens.
you may not want to go in that door there. You know,
Right.
you may that one's going to cost you for a long time, my friend. You know, just say no. You know,
Hey, stay away from the labyrinth, man.
yeah, there you go.
Hey, like Maurice White once said, we yearn to learn, brother. So it's okay. It's, we,
Yeah,
we yearn to learn. We yearn
there
to
you
learn.
go.
Man, what is next on your agenda, man, as far as upcoming performance, man? Because I know a lot
Yes.
of listeners out there want to go see you perform live.
Well, this weekend we're in Atlanta.
Okay.
Jonathan Butler and I will be together there at the Mabel House, Barnes Mabel House Amphitheater there in Atlanta, and so it should be a very exciting show. We have a pretty solid tour schedule beginning. Well, that's already begun, but we'll take a little break for the next few weeks here in August, and then we're back out September, October. But everything is on the website for the most part. I hope.
Okay.
Najee official. In December, I will head back to Brazil to work more on a project that I've been doing down there.
Okay.
Um, And then in 23, we're talking with Dave Cobb's cruise, so I'll probably be on that, doing that, hanging with Dave Cobbs and friends on a cruise that goes to Morocco, starts in Spain, goes all the way to Northern Africa and places like that. So I'm looking
That's a
forward to that. Yeah.
that's a beautiful experience.
Oh yeah.
I go back to when concerts by the sea used to
Oh
exist.
wow.
I know
Oh my God, you
I'm
go
dating
back
myself.
that far? Oh wow. I remember playing that place, man. Remember we did 6 sold out
Oh
shows, and
yeah.
I was so excited. I was like, "Wow, man, people actually paid money to come hear this thing."
So when Najee, when they hear this, and wait a minute, man, you really dating yourself, Teddy Bear? Yeah, I'm dating myself.
Oh, it's all
I'm
good, man.
I'm
I was
dating
right there
myself.
with you, my friend. I was right there
Oh
with you, man.
man, I mean, you would see some of the greatest jazz artists in the world
Truly,
perform there, man, and
truly.
it was beautiful. Then all of a sudden, that was gone, and then it
Yeah.
was like, wait a minute, where do we go hear some great jazz? Then of course you had the Playboy Jazz Festival that was
Right. That's
still
right.
doing the thing, Newport Jazz Festival. Then all of a sudden, Yoshi's comes out of
Yeah,
nowhere.
that's
And
right.
then he said, wait a minute, okay, now we got all these great jazz artists. They're leaving the United States and playing elsewhere. I said,
Yeah.
I don't know too many cats are sitting up and getting on a bus or a plane trying to get to Australia. It takes a little bit of money,
Right, truly.
money to do that. What out of all the cities that you had
Mhm.
an opportunity to play, is there any top three that you definitely have an affinity for that you really love playing at?
Let me see. That's a hard one. But I would say probably the UK. I love going to South Africa.
Okay.
Anywhere there, as far south as Cape Town, Johannesburg, Durban, even Mozambique. I love playing in those places. And probably Brazil. I
Yes,
love Brazil,
Lord.
man. Yeah. Hey, it's a lovely place down there, man.
Hey, Savoir Faire is
Oh
everywhere,
yeah,
brother. That's right.
oh yeah,
In Brazil,
oh
10
yeah.
tracks, a kaleidoscope of
Yes, sir.
orgasmic music from, of course, the new album, Savoir Faire. Be sure, again, family, to go to Najee's official website to get all this latest update, concert information, tickets, and so forth. New
Yes,
album, of course, Savoir Faire. That's at najeeofficial.com. Hopefully, someday soon, man, you'll make a pilgrimage and come here to
sir.
Texas, man. I
Oh,
would
we're
love.
hoping so. I know we have Dallas in September. I don't remember
Okay,
what year. I don't know. Are you in Dallas or Houston?
I'm in Houston,
Houston.
3 hours
Okay.
away. 3 hours
Yeah.
away.
So hopefully, let's keep in touch, man. I'll. I know you can't give me your number, but just send me your information. I'll call you. Well, I'll send you my phone number and stuff. Maybe
Okay, no
you come in
problem.
as our guest in Dallas. You
But
be
what
my
I
guest.
would like from you, and I didn't get
Uh
a
huh.
chance to tell you this the last time I had you on the show,
Uh huh.
the very first album that you did,
Yes,
I
Najee Steen.
I have on wax, man.
Oh wow. Yeah,
I
I
have.
will sign that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Not a problem. Absolutely.
I have that on wax, man. It's definitely a beautiful thing. And brother, thank you so much for taking time
Oh, it's
out
truly
of
my
your
my.
very busy schedule and joining us, man. And again, whatever you need, this is your home. You're always welcome
Oh,
in the
thank you so
zone,
much.
brother. All
Well,
right.
thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate the time with you today. Thank you.
God
So,
bless the
you,
legendary Najee here in the zone of LOTL Radio. Lord have mercy. I want to thank everybody from tuning in and tuning in and bringing us some real music therapy, man. It's definitely a beautiful thing here in the zone of LOTL Radio. Again, family, be sure to get Najee's latest album, Savoir Faire. It's a beautiful experience. And also, while I have you in and we're tuning in, and deviating from all the negativity, all the negative energy. I want to send out a lot of love to Mr. St. Paul Peterson. Yes, Lord. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you, St. Paul, for joining us a couple of days ago. We really appreciate it. And to get all the latest updates, let your fingers do the walk, and you can catch up with us on Twitter. That's at twitter.com/LOTL radio. We're also on Facebook. That's at facebook.com/LOTL the zone, and on Instagram, that's at Instagram.com/LOTL the comfort zone radio. We got a lot of great things in store for you. It's a beautiful experience. I want to thank you for allowing me in your home. And as in always, keep it soulful here in the zone of LOTO Radio. Lord have mercy.